Hello, everyone. This is Coach Tim Campsall, and I'm excited to have a fellow business owner with us today. Something unique about my guest is he started flying airplanes when he was 14. Wow, we'll have him tell us about that. That sounds pretty cool. In his downtime, he enjoys spending time with his wife and his dog, and he's most proud of his ability to persevere and endure through all of the tough stuff. It's my pleasure to welcome Rick to the show today. Hi, Rick.
Hey, Tim, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Well, hey, I'm excited to hear your story today. So let's start by having you introduce yourself. Tell us your full name and a bit of your personal story.
Yeah, so my name's Rick Davis, born and raised here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and went to Indiana State, got an electronics technology degree, and I've always had a sense of entrepreneurship in my soul and my blood ever since I was a kid. I look back at my life and I just know there's some markers in my life that just showed that even before I realized it myself, and just something I've always loved. So my wife and I, Kaylin, we got married a couple years ago, and we're starting our own family right now. It's just a beautiful time in our lives, and just super happy right now. Things are going great.
Very cool. So tell me about starting to fly when you were 14.
Yeah, so when I was younger, my parents tried to get me into different sports like playing baseball and soccer, and I was terrible at all the sports. I mean, I just was terrible. And I there was this airport in Greenwood where we live, and we would always drive by the runway or the airport, and it was just the coolest thing ever to watch these planes like buzz over the cars. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And so my parents made a deal with me. They said, "Hey, if you get good grades, when you're 14, you can start taking flying lessons, and we can afford for you to go every 2 or 3 weeks and do that." So I went flying, and the story was the flight instructor told my parents, they said, "He's going to go flying, and one of two things are going to happen. He's going to be hooked on it, or it's going to scare the heck out of him." And I went flying, and I loved it. The
Awesome.
view's amazing up there.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
Very, very cool. So is there a funny story, Rick, that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, so in terms of entrepreneurship, I think one of the stories that stands out that I hear is the very first garage sale that I got to participate in as a kid. So I was in sixth grade at the time, and I wanted to save up for a Nintendo 64. It was the coolest video game system out there, and all my friends already had one. I was late to the party, but I really wanted my own, and I didn't want just one controller either. I had to have four for me and all my friends and everything. So I had to go and dive deep into my personal stuff I had and figure out what I could sell. So my mom and my aunt Tammy, love her to death. They set out their own tables, and I said, "Hey, can I set up my own table too?" So I had an Atari, I think is what it was, and I'm selling my stuff, anything I got. And the funny story was, and I didn't even have any manners about this, but I just knew that there was potential here to make some money. I was looking at my Aunt Tammy's table about halfway through, and she had like a game, something like that out at her table. And I said, "Aunt Tammy, like how much do you want for this game?" And it was probably something that was in the back of her closet. Like she didn't even care about it. And she's like, "For you, you can just have it for free." And I took that damn game and I put it right on my table and marked it up for like 10 or 15 bucks. And my mom was so mad about that. And I just couldn't understand what the problem was. But that was probably one of the earliest markers I can remember as a kid of, hey, this kid might be wired for entrepreneurship.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So, Rick, tell us, how did the business come about, and at what point did you have the confidence you could run your own business?
Boy, that's a tough one. So I just had this burning desire in my soul that I wanted to start a business. And so when I got out of college, I worked for this company called Consolidated Electrical Distributors, and they had this profit center model. And I basically got to go run their locations as if it were my own business.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. I loved being able to call the shots, whether I made a mistake, learned a lesson, hit a home run, whatever it was. And I just knew that one day I was going to go out on my own and do it all on my own. And so what was cool about starting Sullivan Home Loans was I actually failed a few times on my way to get here. So I leave that company and I decide I'm going to start a real estate investing company. And I couldn't get it off of the ground because I didn't have the discipline of the entrepreneur that it took to run a successful company. And so I kind of waffled around for a year. They actually asked me to come back. I went back. It was a terrible mistake. I was there for 30 or 45 days before I quit again. And then I said, you know what? I got to put all my chips on the table. And so I was on franchisegator.com. I was looking at these different franchises to buy because I thought, okay, if I can go and follow their recipe, I could probably follow a franchise recipe as well.
Yeah.
And man, I got scammed for 20,000 bucks. It
Oh,
was
no.
terrible. Scam for 20 grand. It wasn't my last 20 grand, but boy, it was a lot of my liquid cash I had. And I had nothing but this NMLS license that people use to originate mortgages. I had moved back from Michigan. I was staying at home in my parents' house. I was in their basement back in my old childhood home. That felt like rock bottom to me.
Mm.
And I was like, man, what am I going to do? And so I hung that license with a local mortgage company, started working for them. And I worked for two different mortgage companies over the course of 5 years because I realized I had to master that process before I could go out on my own.
Right.
And so interest rates were climbing. It was the worst time to write mortgages in probably 25 or 30 years. And in January of 2023, my wife and I, and we hadn't even been married at the time yet, but we said, you know what? I'm going to go out and do this. She
Mm.
says, Rick, will you at least wait until after we get married? I said, okay, deal. So we get married in September. We had our honeymoon. The day after we got back from our honeymoon, I packed all my stuff up and I started on my own. And we've been off and running ever since. It's been great.
That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit more about the company. What's the name? What do you guys do? How do you help people?
Yeah, so the name of the company is Sullivan Home Loans. I had to figure out what to name it. I named it after our dog, Sully.
Mm.
The reason why I think dogs they have an unconditional love for everybody. And that really resonates with who we are in the marketplace. It's a very scary thing for customers to do to buy a house. Not everybody's on their best behavior when we're asking them for documents they've never been asked for in their lives. And we must unconditionally love these customers all the way to the finish line and get them to their goal. So I thought that was kind of a good thing. But what we really specialize here at Sullivan Home Loans is we have the ability to help customers get into homes when most lenders won't help them. And what I mean by is there is a guidebook of rules for mortgages, and it's hundreds of pages, probably thousands of pages.
Yeah.
The problem in our community right now is a lot of these loan officers get paid this cushy base salary, and they get paid to tell people yes. They get paid to tell people no, and they don't effectively know the guidelines. And when they don't know the guidelines, they just tell people no rather than rightfully getting them into their homes. And we're on a mission to raise each of the lending standard in each of the markets that we serve by having a thorough understanding of the guidelines and getting things done.
Very cool. So,
Yeah.
Rick, I'm sure as you've gone through your journey that this will resonate with you. We know that successful businesses can get stuck at various stages of their growth journey. So tell us about your biggest challenge and how you've worked through it.
I think the biggest challenge for me is becoming the entrepreneur it takes to run the business that I aspire to run.
Mm.
You know, the example of that, Tim, would be this morning. I got up at 4:50 in the morning. I have a little gym actually at our facility here, and I was working out this morning at 5:30 in the morning while most people are still sleeping.
Yeah.
I have to do those things because I have to become energized and be ready to love on my team and love on my customers and go that extra mile. And if I'm not going and working on my personal self, whether it's my mindset, my physical being, like I'm not going to be able to be the entrepreneur that it takes. You know, too often entrepreneurs say they want to do stuff, but they won't focus long enough to
Mm.
create the results that they want. And so for me, that's been something that I've been working on.
I love that if they don't focus long enough, that oftentimes it reminds me of this cartoon. I just love this visual. It's a guy, he's digging underground, searching for diamonds, and he turns back and he's one pick away from, this great big pile of diamonds. And it's because he gave up too early, right? And said, nope, there's nothing here. And that really is the path to success in being a business owner is not giving up on ourselves, right?
Yeah, and it's tough. It's a dogfight every day. You know, I know when we first started the company up that first year, I started this company up, by the way, when mortgage interest rates were at a 30-year high.
Mm.
Everybody thought I was crazy. And I said, no, this is the perfect time to start up a company because the market's slow and it's going to give me time to understand how the heck to run a mortgage company. And boy, my timing was right. I mean, literally, the time that we started the company up was probably off by maybe the 30-year high on rates within like 7 days.
Wow.
That close. And going through like the election cycle last year. I mean, there were nights where I would lie in bed and almost have panic attacks. Like I don't think I've ever had them, but boy, if I did, I think it was what I went through. It's just like, what did I do? What am I getting myself into? It would be so much easier to go back and just be a loan officer working for somebody. That life was so cushy.
Yeah,
But I think about like the rocking chair test in life. When I'm 80 years old and I'm looking back on my life, I want to make sure I've taken care of everything. I've left nothing, there.
yeah,
And I know I'm on the right path, man. And it just keeps me juiced up every day. And in turn, when I'm juiced up, I watch my team go and do better things with their lives as well. And I'm realizing, Tim, that this isn't necessarily about me starting up a big company to go make a bunch of money. This is about impacting lives.
mm,
How many people can I retire from this company? How many people can I go and
yeah,
in 20 years they say, Rick, we worked together and yeah, you were tough to work for, but you made me a better person. I'm forever thankful for that because
yeah,
I've had some people do that for me too, and it's life changing.
yeah. That is so cool. Eh, Kind of nice transition into our next question here because we know that success doesn't happen in isolation, and you just talked about your team. So I'd like you to pick three people in your business owner journey that you're most proud or most grateful for them being there to help with the business's growth. So who are the three people and how they help you?
Yeah, so the three people, first and foremost, I got to shoot a shout out to my best friend Monty Anderson. I met Monty my first day of high school, and we've been kicking it ever since. We've gone through our knucklehead era, our era of growing and improving. And what I love about Monty is there's been times where I've been up and he's been down, and I've been there to help him. There's been times where he's been up and I've been down,
Yeah.
and he's been there to help me. And I'm so thankful for it. We have a lot of morning calls, and as I get busier with the company, we haven't had as many of our morning calls on the way into work, and I miss the heck out of them. But I'm so thankful every time he calls, and I know if he ever needs anything or I ever need anything, he's just a phone call away.
That's awesome.
So Monty, my second one would be my mother. If it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't be where I'm at today because there were a lot of times, Tim, I wanted to quit this.
Mm,
I remember my first year I was in mortgages, arguably the hardest year ever. And I just wanted to quit, go do something else, right? All the entrepreneurs hit that where it gets hard
yeah.
and you think something else would be easier. And the solution would be to change your route rather than to just knuckle down and keep digging for gold. And I'll never forget the time we were at a restaurant having lunch. And man, I'm making like $1,500 a month. I literally, Tim, at one point in time when I got into mortgages, I was down so much. I sold all my TVs. I even sold my couch. I said, man, if I can't pay my rent with the money that's coming in, I don't even deserve a couch to sit on at the end
Wow.
of the day. I'm going to keep working. And it's just because I never like to go and outspend the money I make per month. So I had investments still, don't get me wrong. But if I wasn't bringing it in that month, I'm not spending it. And that philosophy served me very well. But I'll never forget that lunch with my mom because she slid an envelope over to me with $1,000 in it. And she's like, go have some fun, but keep going. Just give this 5 years. And like, this is 5 years now. We have a building in downtown Indianapolis. We've got 3 locations in 2 states. Like, this is what she kind of knew that I needed to do for myself. And if it wasn't for her helping out, I don't know where I would have been right now.
Wow.
So yeah. And then I think my third one, it's really hard to say which person it is, but I think the third one, and I haven't talked to him in years, but the third one would be a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Trinipol. Jeremy's a great guy. He was the guy that gave me a shot back when I was in college and I needed it. So I went to go and intern with that company and I met Jeremy. I'll never forget the day I met him at an intern or at a career fair. And I didn't even think I wanted to work for his company because it said electrical distributors.
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't want to do anything with my major. I want to get in sales and management. I want to get in real estate. And that's what I told him. And ironically, that's what he was looking for. And he took
Oh,
me
wow.
under his wing for several years and he made me a better person professionally. He gave me some shots when I probably didn't deserve them. But he helped me out. And because of him letting me go on the career with that company, I worked there for about a decade. It set me up for where I'm at now. And a lot of the things I do in this business today for Sullivan Home Loans, I learned from the company that he brought me into. And it was great that he did that.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. I know it's always fun to think back and understand the impact that different people have had in our lives. And I just love the story of your mom slipping you the envelope. That is just it's so inspiring and motivating and that's what parents are for. It's great that she was able to give you that little nudge and encourage and motivate you to keep going. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Rick, the path to building a successful business has a lot to do with continuous learning. So, what's been your biggest learning over the years?
Over the years, what I've been learning about is working on myself.
Mm,
That's the biggest thing that gets me to where I want to be is I have to master who I am as a person, whether that's health or wellness, nutrition, habits, staying away from things, so many of those things, right? And it's been that journey of self-discovery. So, lately for me, I signed up actually the guy that we bought this building from, Tony Lindauer, he's got a health and wellness coaching program.
huh?
And I signed up for it and he's helping me with things like supplementation.
Mm,
Like if I want to go and have the most energy I can have every single day, what am I fueling my body with?
yeah,
What are the little 2 millimeter shifts that will really go and have a long impact? So like supplementation's been a big one lately. Working out, and I finally hit this level where working out is no longer am I going to do it in the morning? It's like I'm going.
yeah,
And now it has to be okay, like what am I going to eat? Like what's my nutrition look like? And so I've just been trying to go and level up those little habits and through doing it when my team's around, they see this stuff.
yeah.
And I watch them wanting to get better too. And it reminds me of that time when I worked with Jeremy, where I looked up to this guy. He's like my role model, my
Yeah.
idol. Like, man, I want to be like this guy when I grow up. And I'm trying to be that for the next generation now too.
That's fantastic. There's a phrase that we use at Action Coach. It's B times do equals have, and what it stands for is we have to become the version of ourselves that's able to do what's required in the business in order for the business to provide what we want to have out of life. And right and so saying it backwards, we can only do who we are. And so the things you're talking about in terms of leveling up yourself and your mind, body, spirit is super critical in order to have the successes that we want. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Though you mentioned mindset a little bit ago, and we know that that's also super critical in terms of success. So in that vein of mindset, what guidance would you have for a business owner who's feeling frustrated or discouraged in their business?
I love that question. I'm thinking about a gentleman in my life right now that's going through that. He's a great friend of mine. He started up his business around the time I did, and life's throwing everything it's got at him. And you have to keep going.
Yeah.
You have to keep going. And not only that, but you have to make sure that you have a clear mind, that you've got a clear vision on where you want to go. And I literally tell myself every day, I will die before this doesn't work out. Hands down, I will die before this doesn't work out. And I mean, I'm dead serious about that. There's no waver in my voice when I say that. I have to show up with that intensity every day.
Yeah.
There's been people along our way that have doubted this, and I will die before I give up. And what I've seen is because I've had that attitude, things keep getting better and better and better. And I think some of those people, maybe they look back and like, damn, maybe I shouldn't have quit on myself as early as I should. But whatever entrepreneurs out there listening to this right now, you have to have that mindset of going all in. You have to be totally obsessed with it.
Mm.
Like I hear this floating around on social media right now. So many people think like, yeah, I want to start up a business so I can be my own boss and set my own schedule. Dana White says it actually. It's total BS, that saying. You have to be all in on it. You don't get birthdays. You don't get Christmases. Like you don't get any of that stuff. You have to be so obsessed with this thing every single day, man. Like my birthday last year, you know what I was doing? I was going and doing the yard work for this building just so I could save $300 in costs.
Yeah.
The reason why is because I got to have $1 million for this business so we can hit our next level. And every little swing at that axe gets me closer to that diamond, right? Save 300 here, 1,000 there, 10,000 there. Just like you have to just be all in and keep going it. And there's no shortcut. There is absolutely no shortcut. I talk to some people, they think that, oh, I'm going to go and like do this with social media and it's going to blow up and I'm going to make a cajillion dollars. Good luck, because like the only way I figured it out is to go work my tail off every day, 6.5, 7 days a week and do it for years.
Yes. There is an interesting dynamic that the get rich schemes or the silver bullet or right the easy all of that to your point doesn't exist. Um, the hustle and grinds that is required to build a successful business, right? Is that constant daily, right? Daily doing the do. Um, I think the stat is something like only 9% of businesses ever make it to a million, and less than 1% ever make it to five. And so that
Wow.
that so that that tenacity and hard work is absolutely what's required to get things working. The the things that folks talk about in terms of not working as hard and getting and being able to have the freedom and flexibility, that's later, right? That once you've figured it out, then you have to transition from the hustle and grind to scaling, right? And scaling is then about the right people and the right systems to enable the business to run without you. But you can't get to a scale until you figured it out on your own, because you can't build a system on something that you don't know how to do. So, right. And
Yeah.
but absolutely, there is a point where business owners do have to shift from them doing it all themselves to building a business that can run without them. Otherwise, they're going to burn themselves out, and we've seen that a ton where, or the business will plateau, right? Where it just simply can't grow anymore because it can't grow beyond the owner's capacity. But all of that happen. That's like phase two, right? Phase one is figure it out and get things working and get the business to that $1 million, and then start focusing on stage two.
Yeah. One of the things that really struck a chord with me, I read the E-Myth
Yeah.
Verified book, or the
Yes.
E-Myth Revisited, whatever it is. And they talk about how when a business owner just tries to keep taking more and more and more on themselves, they'll either burn out or they'll get sick and die,
Yeah.
or like just get sick and it'll kick them out of
Yeah.
doing it, you know? And
Yeah.
I thought about that. I'm like, man, because I had some nights when I first started where I was telling you where like I was staying awake in bed, like my wife's sleeping. I'm like, man, am I doing the right thing? Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like, is this
Yeah.
going to work? Or in the mornings getting up, like, oof, am I going to be able to go put on the game face for 12
Yeah.
hours today?
Yeah.
And so that health component's a very big one for me right now. I'm at a point where it's like, do I want to drink a beer today, or do I want to be 100% tomorrow instead of
Yeah.
85%?
Yeah.
The beer doesn't even taste as good anymore. You know, I'm just like, I want to go kick butt tomorrow instead.
Yeah, well, owning a business is definitely not for the faint of heart, right? Like those stories that you shared about, the laying awake and worrying it, like that's real stuff, because there's real burdens and bills and pressure that we have on us. So having that network that you were talking about earlier, and the health routine, like it's all super critical to be the best version of ourselves, so that we can continue to push forward and figure that stuff out. Because if running a business was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? If getting to $1 million was easy, the stats wouldn't be that only 9% of businesses do. So
Tim, I got one for you. Have you ever in your life, have you ever met like the old man that everybody's like, just go buy that. You know, you could buy that 100 times over. And they're sitting there in like old clothes, old tennis shoes. They don't want to spend any money. You know, you ever met one of those folks, like that old business owner?
yeah,
I joke with our team, like last year when we were going through the election cycle and the real estate industry just stopped for about 90 days,
yeah,
I was worried. And I don't want material stuff any more than I want to have security of cash in the bank.
yeah.
And I joke with the team, I'm like, that season makes those old men. And I'm like slowly
Yes.
becoming them. Like my truck's got 140,000 miles on it. I just put a new starter on it last week. Like I'm going to drive it for as long as I can. And I saw something with Jeff Bezos. I'll probably never be Jeff Bezos level, but like he was driving his old crappy Honda for
Yeah,
as long as he could, you know, and I
absolutely.
see that they think differently about money. And that's why their businesses actually make it, because that's another thing that we should talk about for entrepreneurs. They want to go and make a little bit of money and then they want to spend it all real quick. And you have to be disciplined to make the money and save the money or reinvest it in the business. Make sure your reserves are there, you know, things like that. That's a big thing that takes people out.
Indeed. Yeah. It is so true. Like we should be making money that then works for us, right? As opposed to making money to buy toys. So,
Hmm.
Rick, as you think about the next year, what's your biggest priority that you still need to sort out?
So as we go through our next year, we finished up about 80 million in fundings for 2025. We're up about double what we were last year, which is nice.
Yeah,
For
congrats.
next year, our sights are on at least $250 million in originations for next year. So the biggest thing that's on my site is how do I get to $250 million of originations without me being the number one producer here for the company? I
Mm.
need to be the owner, the president of the company, not necessarily the top sales guy. So the biggest thing for me is I need to hire 3 to 5 producing loan officers in our Indianapolis market. That's the biggest thing that's on my mind for 2026.
And why is that important to you, achieving that?
It's important to me because of this. My vision for Sullivan Home Loans is I want to repair a lot of the broken things that are in the process. And in order to do that, we need to hit a level where we're not only creating the mortgages, but we're servicing the mortgages as well.
Mm.
And so we hit a point where we were creating the mortgages and now we're funding them with our own money. We got a $6 million warehouse line of credit we use to fund our own mortgages now. But after we fund them, they have to get sold or they get sold to somebody else to recycle the liquidity of the business. I want to go and retain the servicing rights of our loans so that I can go and work on what I think is broken in the mortgage system, which is not educating the consumer properly on how these mortgages work and operate. And what that will also help do for my company is that will help increase the recapture rate for our sales folks. I want them to love working for us. And in turn, I want to create a good, healthy deal flow for them to where their previous customers can stay close to them and connected so that they work with them over their whole careers rather than just hunting down a new loan every time they're trying to go and close a deal.
Fantastic. I love it. Rick, last question here. Jim Rohn says that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So as you think about that quote, obviously Jim Rohn's no longer with us, but famous quote that has surpassed his life. What advice would you have for business owners who are feeling stuck and simply trying to figure it out on their own?
You can't. You
Mm.
can't do it on your own. You have to have a group of people. An example of that would be my friend Monty. When he was working on his first boat dealership, he owns 2 of them now, and his momentum's through the roof. But when he was working on his first boat dealership, there were times he was so stressed out, and he'd call me, and he didn't need me to give him advice on anything. He just needed me to listen
Mm.
and just talk to him and
Yeah.
let him know that at the end of his day, he could talk to somebody that wasn't related to the source of all of his issues, which was work. You need to have a good support system there. You have to, it's important. I think about like my wife. My wife's a good support person for me. I got home last night, Tim, at 8 o'clock last night. Dinner was there on the table ready for me to go. She'd already ate. She didn't give me crap for it once.
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of men in the world that try to start up a business, but if their spouse is not on board with it, my wife works just as hard for Sullivan as I do, not necessarily by the stuff she's doing for the business, but how she supports me. If it wasn't for her supporting me, it'd be tough. And I see a lot of business owners where their spouse, their household is not in alignment with what they're doing. Their children must be in alignment. Their spouse must be in alignment. And if those people aren't in alignment with what your goals are, you might have to think about who those 5 people are that are around you. It's imperative that they're in alignment. And I think about the times where I tried to start up a business and it didn't work. Those people around me were different.
Mm.
I had a time with my wife. I don't know if you've ever heard of 75 hard or not. I
Yeah.
tried 75 hard. I tried to do it like over 2 or 3 years, and I never could hit all 75 days. And then one time I was doing it, I'm on like day 45 or 50 of 75. And I'm like, man, I'm getting it. I'm going. I'm going to make it happen. And I was on one of my outside workouts. And I was thinking to myself, what is different in my life right now that I haven't had before? And it was Kaylin.
Mm.
And I thought about it. I was like, man, it's time to propose. And it's actually making me tear up a little bit. It's just like I knew that that was somebody I needed in my life. And it's helped me go farther, 100%.
It's so true that the path of a business owner is very rocky, right? It's like a roller coaster, and if we don't have that support, and we feel alone, it's easier to feel like giving up. But having that support at home and the cheerleader, and similar to your story, right? There's been multiple times where I didn't think I could do it, and I know my wife would say, "Yep, you got this," and she would believe in me even times when I wasn't so sure. And that was just the enough of an encouragement. All right, well, she sees something I don't, I guess I'll keep going.
Yeah. And a man will go farther, or a woman, a person will go farther in their life when they have somebody to provide for, somebody to even, protect and take care of. And I think about what I'm building for Sullivan here, and a lot of it is for my wife, our future children, our family. I get somebody up out of bed and get them to go and get to work quick. That's for sure.
Rick, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people in your journey. If they were all here today, what would you want to say to them?
I'm making it happen, baby. I'm making it happen.
Rick, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, you're welcome, Tim. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show. Please help spread this movement by liking and subscribing to our show and following us on Facebook and LinkedIn. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Please pay it forward and be sure to tune in next time to the Self-Made is a Myth podcast.